Chapter 225. Bam, bam, bam. Under the shocked gazes of Little Pig and Beiqing Fingyu, the bodies of the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's assassins exploded one after another. It was as if they were attacked by something. Their bodies were riddled with countless wounds. But in reality no one had touched them. They weren't attacked at all. However, the explosions came one after another. Flowers of blood bloomed on the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's assassins. In an instant the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's assassins' auras weakened by a lot. They were obviously injured. Was this woman the one who did this? Even Yi Qianren's eyes flashed fiercely when she saw this. Not to mention Beiqing and Little Pig. Wow! How did this woman do it? How could she injure the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's assassins with her martial general strength? Little Pig's eyes were filled with shock. He even forgot that he was thrown out as a shield. Wait. It's those silver shavings. They're the silver shavings from the broken key. Little Pig suddenly squealed. He finally realized what was going on. At that time, the silver shavings exploded and scattered on the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's assassins. He thought that Luo Qingtong did it on purpose so that the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's assassins would take the blame. Now that he thought about it, could it be that things weren't as simple as that? This woman had already done something to the silver shavings. Taking the blame was only one of the reasons. The most important thing was the hidden power in the silver shavings. Well, this woman hid it too well. No one paid any attention to the silver shavings. Who would have thought that there was hidden power in them? Now that the silver shavings exploded, the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's half-step Sage Realm assassins were heavily injured. This woman's scheme was simply amazing. Stop talking nonsense. Stop them. Luo Qingtong's brows were tightly knitted. Her hands didn't stop moving. The silver shavings could injure the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's assassins, but they couldn't make them lose their ability to move. If they couldn't stop them they would still die. Luo Qingtong was also going all out. She had originally planned to use this trump card after saving this man to prevent these people from the Supreme Assassin Pavilion from chasing after her. However, these people were much stronger than she had imagined. They had caught up so quickly. Luo Qingtong had no choice but to use it in advance. She could only hope that she would be able to hold off the Supreme Assassin Pavilion for a while longer to buy some time for her. Bang bang bang. Little Pig rushed toward the assassins from the Supreme Assassin Pavilion. With the help of Beiqing he tried his best to stall them. However, the assassins from the Supreme Assassin Pavilion seemed to have realized something. They looked at the half-naked Yi Qianxian standing next to Luo Qingtong with murderous intent in their eyes. Bang! One of the half-saint experts facing Wind Feather suddenly retracted his saber and blocked Wind Feather's weapon with his own body. Kill the target, he said in a deep and hoarse voice. In the next second, the half-saint experts behind him quickly broke through Wind Feather's line of defense and rushed toward Yi Qianxian and Luo Qingtong. This time Luo Qingtong didn't have any means to stop them. Moreover, Yi Qianxian's acupoints hadn't been unsealed yet. Woman, run. Yi Qianxian's voice was cold. Chapter 226. Luo Qingtong didn't say anything. The blood-red light in her eyes kept flashing as she activated her pupil technique to the extreme. She was calculating how to bring Yi Qianxian out of the encirclement. But it wouldn't work. These people were too strong and there were too many of them. If it was just Luo Qingtong alone she could barely break out of the encirclement. But if she brought Yi Qianxian along it would be impossible. What's more, this man was their target. Even if she rushed out with him these people would rush up again. At that time they still wouldn't be able to escape. Luo Qingtong glanced at the injured Beiqing and Fengyu. Her eyebrows tightly knitted together. Did she really have to leave this man behind? But why? When this thought flashed through her mind she suddenly felt a little guilty. Luo Qingtong had experienced too many schemes and betrayals in her previous life. In the end she developed a self-centered personality. As long as she was well the whole world could die. She had experienced countless life and death struggles. In order to live she could do anything by hook or by crook for freedom. If this man wanted to catch her she could have ignored his life and death. But this man didn't really hurt her. In the end he even went easy on her several times. With Luo Qingtong's personality she naturally knew that if Yi Qianxian really wanted her to die, he had countless opportunities to do so. If he really wanted to hurt or kill her he wouldn't have been trapped here by her. Now he was telling her to leave? Luo Qingtong felt that her heart, which had been as firm as a rock for thousands of years, was suddenly touched. You don't blame me? She looked at the man's cold and handsome face in front of her with a conflicted expression. Suddenly, there was an indescribable irritation in her heart. I trapped you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been unable to fight back against these people's attacks. With this man's strength, it was impossible for him to not be able to deal with these people. Looking at the scene of these people attacking with their lives, it was obvious that they were also afraid of him recovering his strength. This venerable one accidentally fell into your trap. It was this venerable one's mistake. Why should I blame you? Xianxia frowned. He didn't know why Luo Qingtong asked such a question. What was there to ask? He had been immobilized completely because of his own carelessness. Blame her? He didn't have the habit of shirking responsibility. If he hadn't given this woman a chance, she wouldn't have been able to succeed. However, did this woman's question prove that she actually cared about his opinion and was afraid that he would blame her? At the same time, she was worried about him? Xianxia felt an inexplicable sense of comfort as he thought about it. Don't worry. I won't die so easily. In this world there are as many people as ants who want to take my life, but none of them have ever succeeded. This time will be no exception. Let's go. As he spoke, he looked coldly at Luo Qingtong, indicating for her to leave quickly. Although this woman was a little clever, she also had some tricks up her sleeves. She had tricked him several times. But that wasn't true strength after all. In front of these half-saint realm assassins, it was simply nothing. These people's target was him. If she left now, she would still be able to escape. Luo Qingtong had been carefully watching Xianxia's expression the entire time. After discovering that he wasn't lying at all, she felt even more conflicted. Her conscience hurt even more, didn't it? This man still didn't blame her at this time. How could she just leave like that? Even if she tricked people, she still had her principles, okay? If something really happened to this man because of this, she wouldn't be able to rest easy for the rest of her life. Chapter 227. Xianxia was stunned by Luo Qingtong's words. He didn't quite understand what Luo Qingtong meant. Why did this woman want him to close his eyes at this time? Why were there so many strange thoughts in her mind? Stop fooling around and leave. He frowned and said in a low voice. He couldn't let her do as she wished at this time. If he closed his eyes, he wouldn't be able to resist those half-saint assassins. You're such a troublesome man. Luo Qingtong had been conflicted for a long time before she made up her mind. What she was going to do next might expose some of the secrets of her ocular technique. It might even make this man hate her and reveal a trump card that could be used against this man in the future. But now she couldn't care less. Since this man was in danger because of her, then she would return the favor to him. She would treat it as a gift to him for being merciful to her. From now on, they didn't owe each other anything. Swoosh. Luo Qingtong stomped her feet and pounced on Xianxia. The latter was preparing to forcefully open the remaining acupoints. When Luo Qingtong unsealed his acupoints just now, he had already discovered something. Although forcefully opening his acupoints like this would cause great damage to his already weakened strength, it was more than enough to deal with these half-saint assassins. One had to know that even when his meridians were severely injured, he could still defeat the adult divine sky-connecting beast. To Xianxia, anyone below the saint realm was just an ant. However, Luo Qingtong's pounce interrupted his forceful opening of his acupoints. Not only that, Xianxia's eyes widened in an instant. Luo Qingtong wrapped her arms around his neck and suddenly kissed him on the lips. This kiss was not like the one in the bathtub, which was only for seduction. It was extremely close and deep. The young girl's fragrant tongue entered his mouth and entangled with his. Close your eyes. Meeting the man's deep, cold, and shocked eyes, Luo Qingtong felt ashamed and angry. She wasn't used to this kind of kiss that didn't have any ulterior motives. Especially this time, it was to help this man, which made her feel even more awkward. She had never been so selfless before. The 2 times she had kissed a man before, if it wasn't an accident, it was to escape. It was completely different, all right. When Xianxia heard her words, he narrowed his eyes slightly. Not only did he not close them, he even opened his sharp eagle eyes and stared at her unblinkingly. That gaze was filled with aggression. Luo Qingtong felt uncomfortable under his gaze. She cursed under her breath and closed her eyes. If he doesn't want to shut up, I'll shut up myself. Streams of energy flowed from Luo Qingtong's mouth into Yi Qianxian's body and quickly circulated along his main meridians. This was the same circulation route that Luo Qingtong had used to check on Yi Qianxian's meridians. Because their lips were connected this time, Luo Qingtong didn't hold back any of the energy that she had transferred into Yi Qianxian's body. Therefore, after a few cycles, a large amount of energy from the man's body was transferred into her body. It was impossible for Yi Qianxian not to feel such a turbulent surge of energy. He looked at the young man in front of him who had his eyes tightly closed. His gorgeous and bewitching beauty was like a spirit that could suck people's souls. The light in his eyes flashed fiercely. In the next second, he stirred up the energy in his body and coordinated it with Luo Qingtong's energy. Yi Qianxian didn't know why Luo Qingtong was able to absorb his energy for her own use. Chapter 228. Swish swish swish. With Yi Qianxian's cooperation, Luo Qingtong's aura skyrocketed at a terrifying speed in an instant. Originally, she was able to absorb Yi Qianxian's energy for her own use. However, because she wanted to check on his injuries, she didn't do it deliberately. This time she completely let go. Because of Yi Qianxian's cooperation, the absorption process was extremely smooth. In just an instant, Luo Qingtong's strength rose to a terrifying level. Compared to those half-saint experts, there wasn't much difference. However, the temporary increase in strength caused Luo Qingtong to feel the pain that almost made her body explode. And because she had absorbed too much of the man's power this time, Luo Qingtong felt like she was going to explode like a balloon at any moment. Boom! At this moment, those half-step Saint Realm experts also charged forward. Resisting the pain in her body, Luo Qingtong pulled Yi Qianxian to the side to dodge. She quickly used her eye technique to find the best place for the man to dodge. Then she raised her hand and blasted out an attack, blocking the attack of the first half-saint expert that rushed over. Boom boom boom. Luo Qingtong pulled Yi Qianxian and dodged the attacks of those half-saint experts while fighting back. At the same time, she hurriedly said, "Quick, teach me your strongest move." The energy in her body had to be released. Otherwise, her body would explode and she wouldn't be joking. This man was simply abnormal. Luo Qingtong didn't expect that he would still have such powerful strength after being crippled by more than half of his strength. If she didn't release this energy now, she would have to suffer the consequences of her own actions. This sovereign is different from ordinary people. Until now, I've only cultivated the heaven battling art. Yi Qianxian's eyes flickered rapidly. He didn't mention that only he could cultivate the heaven battling art. Moreover, its power was heaven-defying. It could easily destroy the world. Even with his aptitude, it took him a lot of time to master it. This woman... Before he could finish speaking, Luo Qingtong grabbed his hand. "It's fine as long as you have it. Quickly teach me. Just one move is enough." Luo Qingtong's meridians were in excruciating pain. If this continued, she would follow in this man's footsteps. All her meridians would burst or something. "All right." Yi Qianxian's voice was steady. He didn't care that in the cultivation world, cultivation techniques couldn't be divulged to outsiders. This was because techniques represented a cultivator's biggest lifeline and trump card. If others understood your techniques, it meant they had a grasp of your lifeline. If someone wanted to target you according to your cultivation method, they would be able to think of a way to deal with you. Therefore, cultivation techniques was a cultivator's biggest taboo. Yi Qianren didn't care at all. This woman had given him too many surprises. He wanted to see how far she could go. This was the only woman he had met that he couldn't see through no matter how he looked at her. In this world, there was finally someone who could share the title of evildoer with him. Yi Qianxian looked deeply at Luo Qingtong and told her the heaven battling art's incantation. Heaven battling art. Heaven and earth become one, limitless earth splitting. Following Yi Qianxian's narration, the bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered fiercely. Eye technique activated. Extreme evolution. Perfect replication. Yi Qianxian's narration was equivalent to describing a scene of him using the heaven battling art in front of Luo Qingtong. Chapter 229. Bang! Luo Qingtong suddenly took a step forward amidst the attacks of those people. The life and death sword appeared in her hand. Even in this heart-wrenching situation, Luo Qingtong still remembered Tian Mingzi's instructions. She couldn't let anyone see the true form of the life and death sword. She didn't activate the death blade state. She swung the life and death sword in its original form. The black and white light of the sword flashed, setting off the young man's red clothes. It was like a rich painting of flowers and birds colliding with a light painting of mountains and rivers. It gave people a visual shock to the extreme. The beautiful young man in red clothes collided with the simple black and white light in his hand. It was as if he had stepped out of hell and was holding the goddess of purgatory who could take people's lives. When the sword swung down, heaven and earth shook and everything fell silent. The wind and clouds surged and no stars or moonlight could be seen. Only the vast earth, the surging wind, and the boundless murderous aura. The first move of the heaven-conquering art, seizing heaven's fortune. Zhoosh. Luo Qingtong raised her arms and held the life and death sword horizontally in front of her. In the next second, the sword light was piercingly cold. With this as the starting point, it suddenly swept out horizontally. In an instant, a ray of light seemed to appear between heaven and earth. In the dark night sky, it was as if a straight line had been cut open. In that dense dark sky, a ray of light that was enough to split the heavens was drawn. It illuminated this moment of midnight. Like the dawn of the sky, no one could stop it. No one could stop it. Boom. That sword light shot out in a straight line. In an instant, the half-saint assassins who had rushed to Luo Qingtong were quickly turned into ashes. Screams rang out one after another. Those Supreme Assassin Pavilion assassins who swore to kill Xianxia never expected that they would die in the hands of an unknown young man. And this young man was clearly only at the martial general realm. A young man who was like an ant in their eyes and could be easily killed had his strength skyrocketed in an instant. With just a single strike, he had completely annihilated all of them. Even if they were to repeat it 100 times, these Supreme Assassin Pavilion's assassins would never have imagined such an outcome. Boom. After the sword light killed all the assassins from the Supreme Assassin Pavilion, it didn't slow down in the slightest. Instead, it continued on its way. Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and Little Pig were dumbfounded. They almost forgot to dodge when they saw the sword light flying toward them. Oh my God. The evil doctor, this woman, is too powerful. How did she do it? The two people and the pig were dumbfounded. If they hadn't reacted at the last second and dodged, they would have been killed by this sword. The sword light exploded in mid-air, creating a huge vortex in the sky. Their expressions were indescribably sluggish. Bei Qing and Feng Yu in particular were so shocked that they were speechless. This was Master's famous skill. It's a move that only Master can use. How did the evil doctor use it? And how did she become so powerful? She killed all the half-saint realm experts with one strike. Oh my God. Her strength is enough to crush them. How did she do it? Yi Qianxian's emotions fluctuated violently when he saw Luo Qingtong use the killer move that only he could use. This woman was destined to be his. Crack. Yi Qianxian's acupuncture points were opened at this moment. Chapter 230. Phew. Let me lean on it for a bit. Luo Qingtong didn't expect that the move Yi Qianxian taught her would be so powerful. She was shocked when she saw the group of semi-sage realm assassins in front of her turn into ashes under her sword. Especially when the sword light had destroyed so many sage-to-be powerhouses, but it did not diminish. Instead, it exploded into a huge whirlpool in the air. The corners of her lips twitched violently. Luo Qingtong felt that even if she used the perfect copy ability of her ocular technique, it seemed that she couldn't perfectly copy the complete strength of the other party's heaven-conquering art. Because the strength in her body wasn't enough. It could be seen how powerful this man was. It was a move that could kill so many half-step saint assassins with one move. And it was still incomplete power. Then how strong was the complete power? Thinking that she had provoked such a man, Luo Qingtong really couldn't feel happy at all. The more she came into contact with this man, the more terrifying she felt. Did she use up all the good luck from her previous life in this rebirth? Why did she encounter such a peerless monster as soon as she transmigrated? As the supreme ocular technique master of the 24th century, Luo Qingtong had never been so helpless against anyone. But she was helpless against this man who kept chasing after her and wanted to catch her. Thinking about it really made her balls hurt, didn't it? Luo Qingtong's lips twitched as she thought about it. She used up all her strength and leaned her weak and sore body on the man's body. "Ai, you're such a man. If only you were a little weaker." She raised her hand and poked the man's strong arm muscles. She didn't know that the man under her had already opened his acupoints and recovered his strength. He could hold her like a chicken with one hand. At this moment Yi Qianren was accumulating his strength, preparing to take down this woman who always surprised him, but also made him gnash his teeth in anger every time. However, when Luo Qingtong leaned on him, his whole body trembled fiercely, and the brewing strength in his body was interrupted. The girl's body was as soft as cotton. Because she didn't know that Yi Qianxian had already unsealed her acupoints, Luo Qingtong didn't put her guard up against him at all. She unceremoniously placed all her weight on him. She was so tired because she wanted to save him. He even exposed a part of his trump card. What was wrong with letting her lean on him? She hadn't even complained about how hard this man's muscles were. Did he dare to complain that she was too heavy? With this thought in mind, Luo Qingtong instantly felt at ease and treated Yi Qianxian as a large bolster, relying on him to recover her strength. Yi Qianxian's heart felt very strange. He could feel Luo Qingtong's entire body relax as she leaned on him. She was like a lazy cat, lazily arrogant, and delicate as she hung her entire body weight on him. This was the first time this woman had approached him so unguarded, revealing a side that she would never reveal in front of him before. Yi Qianxian remembered that when he asked her to come closer, this woman instantly jumped 3 feet away with a look of vigilance. If it wasn't for her uneasy conscience, she would have run away at that time. This wild and untamed woman rarely had such a gentle and docile side. Thinking about it, Yi Qianxian's brows slightly relaxed. "Forget it, I'll let her lean on me for a while. I'll catch her later." Chapter 231. Yi Qianxian furrowed his brows when he saw the slight fatigue in Luo Qingtong's eyes. He unconsciously relaxed the muscles on his body that had suddenly tensed up when this woman suddenly leaned over, allowing her to lean on him more comfortably. Let's just treat it as a reward for this woman being so obedient. As he thought this, he absent-mindedly followed her words and asked, "Is that so?" What? This woman's way of thinking was really strange. She actually hoped that he would be a bit weaker. In this world where the strong were revered and the weak were treated as lowly as ants, who wouldn't hope that they or the people around them would be a bit stronger? Only then could they be protected. The men and women around Yi Qianxian who were tirelessly trying to climb into his bed were almost all here for his strength. If he didn't have this strength, who knew how many of those who kept saying that they admired him would still be alive? Yi Qianxian sneered as he thought this. He was actually a bit curious about Luo Qingtong's answer. He wanted to know why this woman would have such a strange idea. "Because this way I can keep you by my side," Luo Qingtong said without hesitation. If this man was weaker than her, he didn't need to be that much weaker. As long as he was just a little bit weaker, she would be able to keep him by her side in a matter of minutes. This voice was really indescribably pleasant to the ears. It was cold and noble, elegant and dignified. It was low and deep like the sound of a bell or drum, but clear and pleasant like the sound of a string instrument. Just listening to it was enough to make one pregnant. Unfortunately, this man's strength was too strong. The danger level was off the charts. It was impossible to control. Thus, Luo Qingtong's idea was just a thought. It was better for her to stay away from such a dangerous man, especially when he was scheming all sorts of ways to catch her. For the sake of her own life and freedom, staying far away from him was the best plan. Luo Qingtong didn't want to become someone's prey that was imprisoned in the palm of his hand. She couldn't beat this man in a fight and had a bunch of grudges with him. Just thinking about it made her heart tired. "Zai, you want to stay by my side?" Automatically interpreting Luo Qingtong's words as if she wanted to stay by his side, Yi Qianxian turned his head to look at the little woman leaning on him. His heart was beating slightly and he felt inexplicably happy. It turned out that this woman was not lying when she said that she admired him. She really liked him. He was just too embarrassed to admit it before, right? Yi Qianxian thought of the women who tried to get close to him. Many of them pretended to be indifferent to attract his attention. However, the pretentious attitude of those people only made him feel disgusted. This woman's hypocrisy made him feel very comfortable. Yes. Luo Qingtong didn't notice that the order of his words was reversed. She said regretfully, "Unfortunately, you're too strong." Sigh. At this point she sighed heavily. As Yi Qianxian listened, the corners of his lips curled up. From what he heard Luo Qingtong's words, this woman wanted to stay by his side, but didn't dare to because he was too strong. No wonder she felt that it would be better if he was a little weaker. As Yi Qianxian thought about it, he felt very happy in his heart. This sovereign's strength is irreversible. However, if you want to stay by this sovereign's side, this sovereign. Before he could finish speaking on the other side, Luo Qingtong had rested for a while. She felt that the pain in her meridians had lessened by a lot. Her exhausted strength had also returned. She immediately stretched and stood up. "Lord, thank you for being my body pillow." Chapter 232. Luo Qingtong's hand that was waving suddenly paused. Seeing the man's face darken in an instant, she had a bad feeling in her heart. Oh my God. When did this man unseal his acupoints? There are clearly 2 more acupoints that haven't been unsealed. If it weren't for this, Luo Qingtong wouldn't be so relaxed as she leaned on this man and chatted with him. Now that she suddenly realized that Yi Qianxian's acupoints had been unsealed, she instantly took a deep breath and turned around to run. "Where do you think you're going in front of this sovereign?" Seeing Luo Qingtong's overconfident attempt to escape, Yi Qianxian coldly snorted. The joy he felt from Luo Qingtong's implicit confession was completely gone. This woman, he didn't even care that she was weak. Why was she still running? Was he so scary that she had to avoid him like he was a snake or scorpion? But his own strength wasn't something he could control. Yi Qianxian's heart was filled with anger, but he forgot that he didn't have such thoughts when he first caught Luo Qingtong. The latter wasn't stupid, of course she would run. Otherwise, what good would come out of it if she was caught? But his attitude towards Luo Qingtong had changed. He knew, but Luo Qingtong didn't. If she didn't run, would she be waiting for death? Hey. You're such an unreasonable man, aren't you? In any case, I just saved you. How can you turn hostile and not recognize me? If you want to turn hostile, you have to wait until I'm gone. Bang! Luo Qingtong turned around and bumped into a wall of air. Not only that, but she was also surrounded by walls of air in all directions. Seeing the man's surging aura and the walls of air that blocked all her escape routes, Luo Qingtong wanted to cry but had no tears. Good intentions don't have good karma. Donghua and the wolf. The farmer and the snake. This damned man, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have saved him. I would have just let him perish under the pursuit of those assassins from Supreme Assassin Pavilion. No one repaid kindness with enmity like him. Seeing the man's gloomy face approaching her step by step, Luo Qingtong was forced to lean against the wall of air behind her. Yi Qianxian was determined not to let her escape this time. The walls of air around Luo Qingtong was so dense that she couldn't even find an opening for insects to fly out, let alone a living person like her. Not to mention that she had an eye technique. Even if she had a divine artifact, it would still be useless. She couldn't run even if she dug a hole. That man had laid out a thick layer of energy on the ground. Okay. He's preventing her from escaping from underground. She's not. Luo Qingtong felt like vomiting blood. But she didn't know that she had all kinds of strange ways to escape. Yi Qianren was also taking precautions against her. This time he finally managed to stop this woman. He would never let her go again. After suffering a few losses, Yi Qianren had learned her lesson. It didn't matter if it was useful or not, all he had to do was seal them all. He'll tie this woman up later and personally carry her back. Let's see if she can still escape. Wait. Lord, let's talk things out. Seeing the man's 9 meters tall oppressively approaching, almost filling up the small space she was in, Luo Qingtong's heart was in her throat. Although I've tricked you a few times, I've still helped you. You can't be so unjust. You should at least let me go. Next time catch me openly. What's the point of taking advantage of someone's perilous state? I thought you didn't know how to write the words taking advantage of someone's perilous state? Yi Qianxian snorted coldly. This woman still had the nerve to mention this to him? Which time didn't she take advantage of him? Luo Qingtong was instantly speechless. Chapter 233. Bang. While Yi Qianxian's expression changed, Luo Qingtong also subconsciously looked in the direction he was looking at. However, before she could raise her head, the man pulled her to his side with a swoosh. At the same time he opened his hand and a blood-colored full moon instantly rushed forward. Boom! Luo Qingtong staggered. She could feel that not far behind her, there was a fierce collision of attacks coming in all directions. Luo Qingtong's body was still a little unstable. She almost fell to the ground when the attack hit her from behind. At the side, a strong arm suddenly stretched out from the side and hugged her waist, pulling her to his side. The man's breath was boiling hot. His naked upper body was so close to Luo Qingtong's back. Sage Realm. Yi Qianming narrowed his eyes as he looked at the nine-blade assassin who was flying towards him. His handsome face, which was like a celestial being, had an extremely cold expression. This person came at the perfect time. He even dared to attack this woman. If it weren't for Yi Qianxian's quick reaction, that attack would have broken through the air wall he had set up and exploded on Luo Qingtong's body. The opponent was testing him. The nine-blade assassin had seen the scene where he targeted this woman. Obviously, he was testing whether this woman could become his weakness. This nine-blade assassin deserved to die. Yi Qianxian's eyes turned cold. The blood-colored saber light in his eyes was indescribably biting cold. Master. Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who had been pretending to be invisible at the side and pretending not to see what their master was doing, hurriedly rushed back and stood in front of Yi Qianren. Little Pig also ran back to Luo Qingtong's side. He lowered his head and slipped into Luo Qingtong's sleeve. Yi Qianxian glanced at it coldly and pretended not to see it. Initially he wanted to capture this pig because he didn't believe what it said. He wanted to interrogate it about the existence of the ancient medicinal formula. But now that he had found this woman who could heal him, it didn't matter whether he could get the ancient prescription or not. Most importantly, this pig was the woman's contracted beast. Yi Qianxian naturally wouldn't allow Luo Qingtong's strength to be damaged. For this he was willing to let Little Pig go. Know your place and protect her well. Don't try to play any tricks. Your little tricks are nothing in front of me. His cold voice resounded in Little Pig's mind. The latter was already frightened to begin with. When he suddenly heard the voice in his heart, his four hooves instantly went soft and he knelt down in Luo Qingtong's sleeve. Don't ask me why I'm so cowardly. This man, he wasn't an ordinary person at all. Otherwise, why would Little Pig avoid him like the plague and even sign a heaven and earth contract with Luo Qingtong? Little Pig couldn't help but nod his head when he saw that this man had no intention of capturing him. Isn't it just taking care of this woman and not playing any tricks? I promise I'll do it. In any case, it's fine as long as I play tricks on others. Moreover, Luo Qingtong isn't someone to be trifled with. She's almost as perverted as this man. In front of her it was completely eaten alive, okay? Didn't you see that I was used as a shield again? Little Pig's tactfulness caused the coldness in Yi Qianxian's eyes to lessen. He lowered his head and looked at the woman in his arms. Chapter 234. Woman. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes and glanced at the nine-blade assassin's attack. He pulled Luo Qingtong in front of him and kissed her heavily. Before Luo Qingtong could react, she was forced to accept the kiss. Hey. After the kiss, Luo Qingtong didn't have time to ask what this man meant. She saw him push her hand away. Woman, I'll let you escape again this time. As Yi Qianxian spoke, he put a ring on Luo Qingtong's left ring finger. Ka. The moment the ring was put on Luo Qingtong's left ring finger, she felt a sharp pain. The ring was stuck on Luo Qingtong's finger. Hiss. Luo Qingtong hissed softly. Before she could reach out to touch the ring, Yi Qianxian's voice sounded. Don't waste your time. This ring has absorbed your essence blood. Without my essence blood as a guide, it will never fall off your finger. The man's voice was faint, but Luo Qingtong felt her teeth itch. She knew that this man wouldn't let her go so easily. But if you put a tracking device, then so be it. Why did you put a ring on it? And it just so happened to be on her left ring finger. Did he know what it meant to put a ring on her finger? Luo Qingtong felt depressed. But she didn't know how surprised Bei Qing and Feng Yu were when they saw Xianxia put the ring on her finger. No, it couldn't be described as surprised. It should be described as horrified. 9 Phoenix Ring. Seeing the ring on Luo Qingtong's left ring finger, the two gasped in their hearts at the same time. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. 9 Phoenix Ring. That was the 9 Phoenix Ring that represented the future mistress of the house. Master gave it away just like that? Or did he give it to the evil doctor? The two of them panted heavily in their hearts. They didn't know what to say. Especially when they saw Luo Qingtong looking at the 9 Phoenix Ring with a look of disgust, as if she couldn't wait to pull it out. Their hearts were in a mess. The evil doctor doesn't know how precious this 9 Netherworld Phoenix Ring is. If this ring was taken out, who knew how many people would fight over it? How many people would die of envy and jealousy? This 9 Netherworld Phoenix Ring not only represented the supreme position of the future mistress, but also represented supreme authority. With this 9 Netherworld Phoenix Ring, the evil doctor's identity would be as honorable as his master. At the same time, all the forces under the master's name would be mobilized according to her wishes. Seeing her would be like seeing the master. How could the evil doctor look so disdainful towards such a ring? Bei Qing and Feng Yu's lips twitched violently. Luo Qingtong didn't notice their expressions. After discovering that the ring really couldn't be taken off, she gritted her teeth and said to Xianxia, "Then I thank Lord for his reward." Don't think that she really had no other way. After she left, she would study it carefully. She must take off this damn ring. No need to thank me. Seeing this woman's deflated appearance, Xianxia was in a good mood. At this moment, 9 Blades Killer made a move. Xianxia's expression turned cold. He raised his hand and pushed Luo Qingtong away. "Woman, let's go." Chapter 235. Hey! Luo Qingtong was pushed back by his palm. Seeing the 9-blade assassin rush over, she hesitated for a moment. Finally, she clenched her teeth and shouted at Xianxia, "3rd meridian from the lower left, 5th meridian from the 4th right rib. 8th front rib meridian. Don't go there. Change to the back 4 left 3 right 6. As she spoke, she tapped her foot and quickly leaped backwards following the force of Xianxia's push. Luo Qingtong said that Xianxia's meridian injuries were the 3 most serious. Those 3 meridians were the weakest and restricted Xianxia's strength the most. Otherwise, this man's strength would be even stronger. The last 3 meridians that Luo Qingtong told Xianxia were the energy circulation routes that she had specially modified for Xianxia based on his meridian injuries. Generally, the energy circulation routes of cultivation methods were fixed and absolutely couldn't be changed easily. Otherwise, the best-case scenario would be a backlash of strength. In the worst-case scenario, one would suffer from qi deviation and lose their cultivation. Luo Qingtong didn't know if Xianxia would believe her. But she had already done what she could. What she could do was up to that man himself. Boom! Seeing her figure leave, the 9-blade assassin's eyes suddenly burst with a strange color. Eek woman! With his Xing realm cultivation base, he could naturally see that Luo Qingtong was a woman under her male disguise. If not, he wouldn't have deliberately targeted Luo Qingtong. She didn't expect that Yi Qianrun would send this cross-dressing girl away without any hesitation after just probing her a little. She must be very important to him. Targeting her would definitely make him reveal a flaw. Thinking of this, the 9-blade assassin fiercely brandished his weapon and rushed towards Xianxia and the others. At the same time, he also fiercely attacked in the direction that Luo Qingtong left. Boom! Luo Qingtong was flying forward when she suddenly felt a surge of murderous intent behind her. The attack of a Saint Realm expert blotted out the sky. Its power was boundless. Luo Qingtong turned around and saw the ferocious attack behind her, which was shrouded in a layer of violent killing intent. Her face instantly tensed up. In an instant he activated his eye technique. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered violently. In the next second she abruptly stopped in her tracks and threw herself into the nearby bushes. Rumble! Countless long grass and trees were all uprooted. Luo Qingtong's figure narrowly avoided the attack in that instant. She was sent rolling on the ground by the violent aftershock and disappeared in an instant. What? Seeing that Luo Qingtong had unexpectedly dodged his attack, The Nine Blades assassin's face was instantly filled with astonishment and shock. Before he could figure out what was going on, opposite him Xianxian's aura suddenly exploded with a boom. The aura around the man's body surged. His strength was much stronger than before. The aura around his body was like that of a demon god. How dare you attack her? You're courting death. Xianxian's expression was ice-cold as he looked at the Nine Blades assassin with an extremely cold gaze. When he heard Luo Qingtong's words just now, he subconsciously changed the route of his power according to her instructions. Because of this, he wasn't able to intercept the Nine Blades assassin's attack on Luo Qingtong in time. He actually dared to attack that woman. Chapter 236. You. He looked at Xianxia in bewilderment. The latter's strength was clearly not this strong before. What's going on? That's right. That girl just now. The Nine-Blade assassin suddenly recalled the words Luo Qingtong said before she left. Could it be that those words caused Xianxian's strength to undergo such a huge change? But weren't those words just nonsense? How could anyone casually change the route of a cultivation technique? The Nine-Blade assassin had scoffed when he heard those words, thinking that it was a secret code between Luo Qingtong and Xianxia. But now that he saw the man's strength suddenly skyrocket, his face instantly stiffened. No one knew the meaning of those words better than him. That girl could actually casually change the route of a person's cultivation technique without causing any backlash? What kind of terrifying ability was that? The most terrifying thing was the man in front of him. Looking at the man in front of him who was like a demon god, the Sage Realm Nine-Blade assassin suddenly felt a chill in his heart and involuntarily took a step back. He felt a chill run down his spine. No one knew how powerful this man who was known as a legend on the continent was. If it weren't for the hidden dangers in his body that were rumored to have begun to lose his strength, they wouldn't have dared to accept the mission to hunt him down. But now with that girl's words, his strength had suddenly skyrocketed. What did this mean? It meant that this man's strength had a chance to recover. This man, who was recognized as the uncrowned king of the continent, was an existence that all experts looked up to. No one knew how powerful he would be once his strength recovered and the hidden dangers in his body disappeared. That blow just now had made him vomit blood. And the strength that this man was displaying right now was not even 1/10 of his peak strength. If this man was at his peak, people like him wouldn't even have the qualifications to look up to him. No. This news must be sent back to the pavilion as soon as possible. Tell them that this man's strength might recover. Thinking of this, the Nine-Blade assassin almost subconsciously turned around and fled. Swish swish swish. A Sage Realm expert's ability to escape when fully unleashed could be said to be very shocking. However, Xianxia only watched coldly as he fled. When the Nine-Blade assassin finally relaxed and thought that he was safe this time, the space around him instantly shattered into countless pieces with a boom. Countless space blades sliced apart the Nine-Blade assassin, and he was trapped in the shattered space, completely losing his sense of the world. The power of the Saint Realm was completely useless. That man. He looked in Xianxian's direction in horror, only to see the man turn around with a cold gaze. I've cleaned it up. Xianxian's voice was cold. The moment his voice rang out, rumble. The Nine-Blades assassin was instantly pierced through by the sharp blade that shattered space, and his corpse fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. Yes, master. Bei Qing and Feng Yu hurriedly agreed. In front of Xianxia they had no chance to make a move. Of course, they wouldn't be able to deal with a Saint Realm expert, let alone a Saint Realm expert sent by the Supreme Assassin Pavilion. His strength was even above the ordinary Saint Realm. This woman ran really fast. Standing at the place where Luo Qingtong's figure disappeared, Xianxia narrowed his eyes slightly. The surroundings were filled with the violent power of the Nine-Blade assassin, which stirred up the power of heaven and earth, completely covering the woman's aura. That woman might have a way to completely avoid it, but she deliberately brushed past here and ran away after being contaminated by the aura. Chapter 237. Master, aren't we going after the evil doctor? Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who had finished dealing with the corpses of the Supreme Assassin Pavilion, were shocked when they saw their master dashing in another direction. They hurriedly followed him. No hurry. Xianxia's voice was cold. Let's go back first. The Supreme Assassin Pavilion's pursuit had really touched Xianxia's bottom line. Especially that 9-blade assassin who dared to attack that woman. Thinking of the scene he had just seen, the man's blood-red eyes flashed with a cold light. If not for that woman's extraordinary ability, she would have been killed by that blow. How could an attack from a sage be so easy to dodge? That woman was the only one who could dodge it. If it had been anyone else, even if they were above the martial emperor level but had not reached the sage level, they would have died. Supreme Assassin Pavilion. Xianxia's voice was cold. In the past he did not care about the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's pursuit. But now that the hidden danger in his body had appeared, there were too many people in the world who wanted to kill him. Supreme Assassin Pavilion was not the only one. As for Xianren, she didn't put them in her eyes. Those assassinations that they had offered a reward for was just a joke to him. He had no intention of dealing with them. But it would be unforgivable if they hurt that woman. Xianxian did not want to bring danger to that woman. Master. You mean? Bei Qing and Feng Yu were stunned when they heard Xianxian's words. Then they were delighted. Master, what he meant was, could it be that he wanted to go back? Going back to that place? Yes. You can go back to the Black Field and prepare. Xianren faintly nodded, acknowledging their guesses. Yes. Master's wise. Master, you are finally going back. Let's see if those people still dare to be arrogant. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were pleasantly surprised. When they heard Xianxian's voice, they hurriedly responded. Master's finally going back. Both of them were indescribably excited. For so many years, Master was too lazy to pay attention to that place, let alone step foot on that land. Every time they saw the news coming from the other side, they felt an indescribable anger in their hearts. What Master's strength was about to completely disappear. The former king had been reduced to trash. Bah! You're the trash. Your whole family is trash. Their master was so strong, how could he have become trash? A bunch of clueless dregs. God knows what they're thinking about. Even if Master's strength was 10 times weaker, he would still be able to beat them. A bunch of ignorant frogs at the bottom of a well. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were fuming with anger. But their master was too lazy to deal with them, so they had no way to fight back. Now it's all good. Master finally decided not to ignore it anymore. They could finally let out a sigh of relief. Bei Qing rubbed her palms together as she thought about it. Feng Yu, on the other hand, quickly regained her senses after a short moment of joy. She sighed inwardly at the influence the demonic doctor had on her master. As smart and calm as she was, she naturally knew that her master had always ignored the Supreme Assassin Pavilion's pursuit. She was too lazy to pay attention to those people, so why would she change her attitude so easily? It was most likely because she had almost implicated the demonic doctor in this dangerous situation. That was why her master was so angry that he decided to go back and deal with those ignorant people. Supreme Assassin Pavilion. This mysterious assassin organization that was said to be invincible in the True Spill continent and dared to kill no one. She was afraid that bad luck was about to befall them. However, the direction in which her master was going didn't seem to be heading back to the Black Field. Feng Yu was puzzled. Chapter 238. Tianyu Empire, Imperial City. Emperor of Tianyu looked at the dead or injured imperial family members being carried back one by one. He was so angry that he was shaking. If it wasn't for his status, he would have jumped up on the spot and cursed. Even so, he still pointed at the people below and cursed. A bunch of trash. Didn't you say it was just a thief? So many people went to catch him. In the end, there were so many casualties. You've disgraced my Tianyu imperial family. How could Emperor of Tianyu not be angry? He was woken up in the middle of the night. He heard that someone broke into the imperial treasury and triggered the alarm. He thought it was nothing. It was just a thief. Once caught, he would kill him. More than half of the imperial city's experts were led around the city like dogs. When they chased the thief out of the palace, they came back with such a scene. They were all heavily injured and dead. They didn't even touch a hair on the thief. What use did he have for these people? Your Majesty, please don't be angry. The surviving imperial family members of Tianyu were also trembling in fear. They didn't expect that things would turn out like this after they rushed forward. That thief's accomplice was too strong. They were so angry that they didn't think too much when they rushed up. But when they fought with the thief, they realized that the thief's strength wasn't something they could compare to. Saying it was a fight was a nice way to put it. That was simply a one-sided suppression from the other side. They thought about how they had charged forward with so many people, only to be sent flying in just a few moves. They didn't even have the strength to fight back. And this was because the thief didn't want to fight and left quickly. If it wasn't for this, they suspected that the entire Tianyu imperial city would have been slaughtered in one night. When they saw that person attack, they seriously suspected that the other party was a Saint Realm expert. But they couldn't say this to Emperor of Tianyu, because it was too ridiculous. Who would have thought that such a strong person would come and steal from their Tianyu imperial treasury? Even if they gave the entire Tianyu empire to him, he might not even look at it. The biggest possibility was that they were tricked by the thief who stole from the treasury. He had found the wrong target. If that was the case, then he couldn't say it out loud. If Emperor Tianyu knew about this, he would definitely behead them. That was a Saint Realm expert. Thus the group of people kneeled on the ground trembling in fear. They were scolded by Emperor Tianyu until they did not even dare to fart. Just as Emperor of Tianyu was cursing, an expert from Tianyu's royal family rushed in. Because of his extreme panic and fear, he almost tripped when he entered the door. Your Majesty, something bad has happened. The expert from the royal family of Tianyu rushed up and knelt before the Emperor of Tianyu. His forehead was dripping with sweat. Something big had happened. It was as if the sky had collapsed. The expert from Tianyu's imperial family knelt on the ground and kept swallowing his saliva. After a few gulps, he finally dared to tell Emperor Tianyu about this. Your Majesty, the treasury of the Tianyu royal family has been emptied. Bang. Chapter 239. What did you say? Emperor of Tianyu finally steadied himself with the help of his servants. He didn't care about his image as an emperor anymore and rushed to the expert, grabbing him by the collar and lifting him up. Say that again. Emperor Tianyu's expression was ferocious, his eyes filled with disbelief. The royal treasury had been emptied. How was that possible? That was impossible. That was the treasury of Tianyu's royal family for 1,000 years. All the treasures of Tianyu's royal family were in that treasury. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the treasury was the lifeline of Tianyu's royal family and Yuan clan. With that treasury, even if Tianyu's empire was destroyed, Yuan clan could rise again and return to the peak of the empire. But now, they said that the treasury was gone? Had it been emptied? Nonsense. The treasury was full of traps and traps. There were also countless formations. Let's not talk about that. The treasury was thousands of square meters. How could such a big place be emptied out just like that? Veins popped out on Emperor of Tianyu's forehead. He didn't believe it at all. The reason why he was so calm when he heard that someone broke into the treasury was because he knew that the intruder wouldn't lose anything. What could a mere thief steal? It would be amazing if he could sneak in. But now the content of this expert's report was a heavy blow to him. Your Majesty. It's true. The expert from Tianyu's royal family cried as he kowtowed with all his might. Not just the outer treasury, the inner treasury's countless treasures, resources and pills are all gone. Our royal family's 1,000 years of treasures are all gone. Your Majesty. The expert from Tianyu's royal family cried out. They were also shocked when they rushed into the treasury. Who would have thought that a mere thief could empty their royal family's 1,000 years of treasures? No one knew how the thief did it. When they entered, the entire royal treasury was shiny and clean. It was so clean that they almost blinded their eyes. On the spot, a few of the martial emperors fainted. He still hasn't woken up yet. Impossible. This is impossible. Tianyu Emperor loosened his grip and kicked the expert to the side before running towards the treasury. Your Majesty. A group of people yelled and followed behind him. Emperor Tianyu rushed to the royal treasury with a ferocious expression and rushed into the huge treasury. When he saw the empty treasury hall, Emperor Tianyu trembled. Just like the fallen leaves in the autumn wind. In the next second he screamed out in pain and fell straight to the ground. Your Majesty. A group of experts from Tianyu's royal family hurried over. Some of them were supporting him while others were pinching his philtrum. It took a long time before Emperor Tianyu woke up. The moment he woke up, even someone as calm as Emperor Tianyu spat out a mouthful of blood. Investigate. He screamed hysterically. Chapter 240. Sky Mirror Secret Technique was a secret technique unique to Tianyu's royal family. This secret technique combined with the royal family's own inherited cultivation method could allow one to track the other party's identity through a trace of aura. This was a secret of Tianyu's royal family. Very few people knew about it. At the same time, it was rarely used. Because it consumed too much energy, only martial emperors could use it. Most of the Tianyu royal family's martial emperors were in seclusion in order to break through. They couldn't be disturbed. Under normal circumstances, Emperor Tianyu wouldn't use this method, nor would he alert the martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family. But this time it wasn't normal. What was lost was the royal treasury of Tianyu's royal family. Their royal family's 1,000 years of treasures. It was their lifeline to rise again in the future. 1,000 years of building a country, 1,000 years of treasures. The loss of the royal treasury was a heart-wrenching pain to Tianyu's royal family. Not only that, didn't they need to find all their treasures? Did they have to spend another 1,000 years to find all their treasures? Who knew if Tianyu Empire would still be around by then? No. They had to find the treasury. That little thief must also be caught. Emperor Tianyu spat out blood as he ordered. Soon, the martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family were alerted. Your Majesty, don't worry. We'll use Sky Mirror Secret Technique immediately. That thief won't be able to escape. Hearing that the royal treasury was stolen, the martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family were very cautious. At the same time, they were furious. Zhou. In the treasury, a martial emperor stood in front of the door that was destroyed by a punch. He raised his hand and grabbed in the air. Instantly, the air currents in the room surged. Countless auras stirred in the air. In the next second, the martial emperor clenched his hand. A trace of aura was grasped in his hand. Activate secret technique. Seeing his action, the other martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family raised their hands and slapped out a rune in the air. Those runes flew into the air and connected to each other, forming a mirror-like formation. Sky Mirror Secret Technique. Whoosh. The martial emperor-level powerhouse raised his hand. In an instant, the wisp of aura left his hand and swept into the center of the heavenly mirror secret skill. The martial emperors from the royal family of Tianyu were red in the face. Their chi was being sucked into the formation. The ripples of the water mirror kept spinning. A faintly discernible silhouette appeared from within. It was a red figure standing in front of the door of the secret room and punching out. That's right. That little thief is wearing a red coat. One of the imperial family's experts beside Emperor Tianyu shouted when he saw the faint red figure. They were led around Sky Universe Imperial City by Luo Qingtong and had a deep impression of this red dress. However, it was nighttime and the thief's face was covered by a cloth, so it was impossible to see his face clearly. Now, under the heavenly mirror secret technique, let's see how that little thief can hide his appearance. When they catch that little thief, they will skin him alive and make him suffer a fate worse than death. Emperor Tianyu gritted his teeth as he stared at the figure of the young man slowly appearing from the heavenly mirror secret technique. Chapter 241. Rumble. That loud sound seemed to have come from the horizon. It was like a thunderclap rumbling in the air. In an instant it was above the royal treasury. Bang! Before Emperor Tianyu and the others could react to what was going on, with a boom, the entire roof of the royal treasury exploded in an instant. An incomparably majestic force came crashing down. In an instant, countless bricks and mud flew everywhere. Ah! Emperor Tianyu and the rest were instantly sent flying. The martial emperors who were using the Sky Mirror secret technique to reveal Luo Qingtong's appearance spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground with a thud. They were instantly heavily injured. Sage. Sage Realm Expert. A martial emperor-level expert who was slightly injured, stared in shock at the vast force that had instantly sent the entire royal treasury flying. His eyes instantly widened as he cried out hysterically. Sage Realm Expert. Such a terrifying heaven and earth energy could only be possessed by an expert who had reached the saint realm and had transcended the mortal world. These powerhouses who had already cultivated to the martial emperor realm were well aware of the vastness of the power of heaven and earth. At the same time, they were filled with respect and fear towards the expert who did this. Sage realm expert. And not just any ordinary sage realm expert. So strong. This wave of energy came directly from afar and blew up the entire royal treasury, but they didn't notice it at all. What kind of terrifying control was this? Just as the martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family were in shock and fear, a cold voice suddenly rang in their ears. You are not allowed to investigate the royal treasury. Otherwise you will be killed. The two words killed were incomparably cold and ruthless, filled with killing intent. Everyone couldn't help but shudder when they heard it. Terrifying. It was really too terrifying. The royal family of Tianyu didn't doubt that if they said no, the entire royal family of Tianyu would be wiped out in an instant. This person's strength was simply too strong. Emperor Tianyu and the rest trembled. Under the pressure of this force they couldn't even say a word. They could only nod their heads desperately. Compared to his life and the continuation of Tianyu's royal family, the royal treasury was nothing. Even if the other party asked them to hand over the entire Tianyu empire, they could only offer it with both hands respectfully. This kind of power was enough to pierce through the heavens and earth. Only the four great sacred dynasties had such an expert. Although the Tianyu Empire was an emperor-level superpower in the outside world, in front of the four holy dynasties, it wasn't even worth mentioning. Not to mention such an expert. However, Emperor Tianyu and the others couldn't figure out why such an expert would be interested in the imperial treasury of the Tianyu Empire. With the other party's strength, what kind of treasure could he not have? However, there were many eccentricities in this world. Perhaps they had met an expert who liked to snatch other people's treasures? Thinking like this, Emperor Tianyu and the others could only accept their bad luck. While Emperor Tianyu and the others were scared out of their wits, on a mountain peak not far from Emperor Tianyu, Xianxia flicked his sleeve and withdrew his power. Let's go, he said indifferently. Yes, master. Bei Qing and Feng Yu hurriedly responded. They didn't expect that master would take a detour to Tianyu Empire just to cover the evil doctor's aura. Master cared too much about the evil doctor, didn't he? They didn't know if the evil doctor could sense master's good intentions. Achoo. Ew. Chapter 242. Strange, who's scolding me? Luo Qingtong stopped and rubbed her nose. Then she thought of something and her lips twitched. It can't be that man, right? Thinking of Xianxia, Luo Qingtong had a headache. Why is that man so difficult to deal with? He's still haunting me. Luo Qingtong never imagined that she would run into that evildoer when she suddenly wanted to go to the Tianyu Empire to teach the Tianyu Empire's imperial family a lesson. What kind of ill-fated fate did she have to run into that man again and again? I'm drunk. God, how did I offend you? Tell me. I'll change. As long as you don't let that man run into me again. If you want me to call you master, I'll even offer you longevity incense every day. Sigh. I'm so unlucky. If she knew this would happen, she wouldn't have come to the Tianyu Empire. Anyway, she would have plenty of chances to teach the Tianyu Empire's imperial family a lesson. Why did she have to come when that man was here? That was great. Not only was she caught, but she was also trapped with such a thing. Luo Qingtong gloomily looked at the ring finger of her left hand. There, a ring of exquisite craftsmanship was quietly being worn on her slender and beautiful finger. The 9 phoenixes on the ring were so beautiful and lifelike, as if they would spread their wings and fly out at any time. Luo Qingtong looked at the workmanship of the ring. It was even better than the trash that little pig gave her. After all, the trash that little pig took out was made by that old man Tian Mingzi. As the owner of the Immortal Slayer Palace, the storage rings that he refined were definitely not ordinary. Even if they were trash, they would definitely be of high quality. The ring that this man put on her finger was not inferior to his. It could be seen that this ring's quality was not low either. Really? It's just a tracking device. Why did he make it so flashy? If I didn't know better, I would think that he's interested in me. And he even put it in such a place. If she didn't know that the ancient people didn't know that putting a ring in such a place represented a proposal, Luo Qingtong would have misunderstood. But what was the meaning of the kiss she gave him at the end? Luo Qingtong was almost intoxicated by it. Not only was that man powerful and handsome, but he was also a fast learner. The taste of that kiss was simply too good. Luo Qingtong was almost tempted by such a man. In fact, Luo Qingtong really liked Xianxia. Such a strong and handsome man was really her cup of tea. Luo Qingtong had seen countless handsome men in the 24th century, but she was not interested in men who were weaker than her. Moreover, she was the strongest ocular sorcerer in the special ability realm. Who knew how many people were after her? If a man who was too weak stayed by her side, it would only become a weakness for others to capture and plot against her. Therefore, no matter how much Luo Qingtong admired men, she had never been moved by any man. She was very clear about what she wanted, and she knew that she would never become someone's puppet or vassal. But Yi Qianxian, that man, he was too strong. He was so strong that Luo Qingtong didn't know where his limit was, and she didn't know how she could control him. After so many years of being on the run, Luo Qingtong had developed an extremely insecure character. A man that she couldn't control was as dangerous as a ticking time bomb. Luo Qingtong didn't know when she would be blown to pieces. Once she fell in love with such a man, she would be consigned to eternal damnation. Forget it, it's better to stay away from him. Chapter 243. Come out. Luo Qingtong automatically gave Little Pig a name. She didn't care if the name didn't match its high and mighty identity as an ancient divine pig. In fact, Luo Qingtong suspected that this pig was fooling her. Looking at it, it didn't have the slightest demeanor of an ancient divine beast. What are you doing? Little Pig crawled out of her sleeve with weak legs. However, before it could crawl out, Luo Qingtong lifted it up. Do you have a way to block the detection of this ring and prevent that man from sensing it? Luo Qingtong firmly believed that this ring was a tracking device. In fact, this ring could indeed sense Yi Qianxian's Shifang dragon ring. After all, the Dragon Phoenix Emperor rings were a pair. Otherwise, how could Yi Qianxian let Luo Qingtong go so easily? There's no way. This ring has already absorbed your blood essence. If I'm not wrong, that man should have a ring similar to yours. Can sense your aura. Little Pig had stayed in the Immortal Slayer Palace for a long time. Naturally, it knew some things about refining. This ring's level was obviously very high. If it was a little lower, it might have a way. But now it could only shake its head. Is there really no way at all? Luo Qingtong furrowed her brows. She really didn't want to meet that man again. The feeling of not being able to control her own body and being held in the palm of someone else's hand wasn't pleasant at all. As a supreme ocular technique master, Luo Qingtong had never felt so helpless before. But that man, she had no way to deal with him. Most importantly, Luo Qingtong was afraid that if this continued, she would really be tempted. Yi Qianxian was very suitable for her to choose a partner in all aspects. The feeling of not being able to pounce on the man she liked was too vexing. No, she must stay away from that man. Otherwise, what if she accidentally made a big mistake? If it was back on Earth, she would just pounce on such a man. Anyway, she was alone in this world. She wasn't afraid of his revenge. At most, he would just run away. But now, thinking of grandfather Luo Qingtong had scruples in her heart. It was rare for her to have someone she wanted to protect, so she didn't want to lose them again. That man was too dangerous, she couldn't take the risk. He couldn't pin his hopes on the possibility that he would show mercy to him. Who knew if he had changed his mind on the spur of the moment? Thinking about it, Luo Qingtong stared at the ring on her hand. Her eyes flashed with a bloody light. She wanted to use her eye technique to analyze the ring and find a way to take it off. But just as her ocular technique was activated, it hit a wall. Luo Qingtong looked at the layer of power lingering around the ring in annoyance. It was the layer of power that the man had placed on it. She couldn't pry into the ring and analyze it. Just like how she couldn't see the man's face clearly before. The heavens wanted her dead. Luo Qingtong scratched the wall in her heart. That man even knew that she had an eye technique. Was there a need to be so cautious? She glared at the ring on her hand. She was so angry. If she knew this would happen, she wouldn't have exposed so much to save that man. But in the end, he returned it all to her. What kind of sin did she commit to sacrifice herself for others? In the end she ended up trapping herself. On the other hand, Little Pig couldn't help but ask when he saw her trying to find a way to take off the 9 Phoenix ring. I don't think that man has any bad intentions towards you. Why do you have to avoid him? That man even warned him for this woman. Not only that, the ring's level looked so high. It didn't look like it would harm this woman. Chapter 244. You don't understand. Luo Qingtong didn't even raise her head as she continued to study the 9 Phoenix ring on her finger. A tiger cub and a wolf king met and was spared. Do you think you'll be so lucky the next time you meet? Moreover, a person's fate should be in their own hands and not in the hands of others. I want to be a hunter, but I don't want to be someone else's prey. Especially the prey of an uncontrollable man. As Luo Qingtong spoke, a faint light flashed through her eyes. Luo Qingtong knew very well how important a stable growth period was to a strong person. She had grown from nothing to a world-renowned supreme ocular sorcerer. Before she matured, she didn't want to meet that dangerous man for the time being. As for after she matured, it would be her turn to hunt him down. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's lips curled into a wicked smile. I didn't expect you to have such thoughts. Little Pig looked at Luo Qingtong in amazement. This woman is different from the rest. That man is so strong, yet she doesn't have any thoughts of attaching herself to him. But what about being a hunter and a prey? Did she misunderstand something? Little Pig thought about the scene between Xianxia and Luo Qingtong. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't look like a hunter versus a prey. Moreover, is there a prey as arrogant as this woman? Little Pig felt very complicated. Before he could speak, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly sounded. Wait. What did you just say? I didn't expect a woman like you to have such thoughts. Little Pig repeated with a baffled expression. What is this woman up to now? Not this. That was the first sentence. You said that this ring absorbed my essence blood so that man could sense my aura through another ring that was similar to it? That's right. Little Pig was even more baffled now. What's wrong? Is there a problem with my words? There's no problem. Very good. Very good. Luo Qingtong smiled sweetly and recklessly. It was indescribably enchanting. You've helped me a lot. She knew how to deal with that man. She hoped that man wouldn't be too surprised when he found her. Come here. Luo Qingtong hooked her finger at Little Pig. The latter squatted on her shoulder and looked at her smiling face. She felt a chill run down her spine. She subconsciously wanted to run away, but Luo Qingtong grabbed her tail and pulled her back. All right, I won't do anything to you. Give me a few more of your junk. What do you want now? Whenever Little Pig saw Luo Qingtong smile, he knew something was wrong. He felt that this woman was up to something again. You don't have to worry about that. Just take it out. Luo Qingtong grabbed Little Pig and shook him violently. Little Pig felt dizzy from her shaking and quickly took out a few scraps. The corner of Little Pig's mouth twitched when he saw Luo Qingtong holding Tian Mingzi's ruined storage ring. She pricked her finger and dripped her blood on it. You can't be thinking that these scraps will resonate with that man's ring after you drip your blood on them, right? Is there something wrong with this woman's brain? Even if these scraps were smeared with her blood, they wouldn't be the ring on her finger. The fluctuation of spiritual energy on them is different. How can they resonate with that man's ring? Chapter 245. You. Little Pig's beady eyes widened as he watched Luo Qingtong's actions. The young girl held the trash in one hand and covered the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring with her other hand. Little Pig didn't know what she did, but in an instant the spiritual energy fluctuation on the trash changed. It became exactly the same as the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring. Holiest *T. Little Pig was shocked. He stomped his 4 hooves and jumped in front of Luo Qingtong in an instant. He raised his front hooves and grabbed at the trash. After Luo Qingtong finished transforming the trash, she let go of her hand and let Little Pig grab it. You. Woman, how did you do it? Little Pig probed the trash with his spiritual energy and found that it was still the same trash. However, the spiritual energy fluctuation on it had changed into the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring. Holiest *T. This woman is simply godly. She can do this. How did she do it? No matter if it was a spiritual tool or an elixir, they all had their own unique spiritual energy fluctuation. This was determined by the formula they used to refine them. It was just like a cultivator's own spiritual energy fluctuation. It couldn't be changed. However, Luo Qingtong forcibly changed the spiritual energy fluctuation on this trash. It was as if a cultivator who cultivated a fire attribute cultivation method had the aura of ice attribute. It was so unbelievable. Little Pig felt that ever since he recognized Luo Qingtong as his master, he had been suffering from inhumane blows every moment. Is this woman still human? Is there anyone as abnormal as her? It's just a little trick, Luo Qingtong said as she quickly changed the spiritual energy fluctuation on the other trash. This kind of spiritual energy fluctuation was directly changed by her according to the aura fluctuation on the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring. The spiritual energy fluctuation was naturally emitted. That man's strength couldn't block it. Luo Qingtong used her pupil technique to record it. Then he followed the instructions and made some changes to those useless rings. Didn't that man put a tracker on me? I can't take it off, right? He won't let me use my pupil technique to decipher it, right? Let's see how he can find me after I make a few more. In addition to changing the spiritual energy fluctuation on the trash, Luo Qingtong also picked a trash and covered it with the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring in her hand. This way it would be foolproof. She didn't believe that man could still find her after changing the fake and the real one. If that really happened, she could only admit that she was unlucky. God wanted him to find her. What could she do? You're awesome. You're awesome. Little Pig was speechless after hearing her words. Does this woman know how shocking what she's doing right now? No one could change the spirit chi inside a spirit artifact like she could. That was equivalent to one person suddenly transforming into another person. This was something that not even a weapon refining grandmaster could do. What kind of woman is this woman? Luo Qingtong quickly changed the spirit energy fluctuations of the few useless rings. She tossed the fake 9 Nether Phoenix rings in her hand and stood up. Go. Let's go. While we're at it. Along the way, let's give that man some surprises. Luo Qingtong said with her lips slightly curled up. She had an indescribably evil and wanton aura. Just as she began to modify the waste products on the Atlas spirit vessel, Yi Qianren suddenly sensed the aura of the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring. He didn't expect that the Sage Realm aura around that woman would fade away so quickly. Just as Yi Qianren was thinking about whether or not he should go back and capture that woman, suddenly with a few schwa 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 sounds, a few identical auras appeared in his senses. That woman. Chapter 246. Pa. On the Atlas flying ship, Bei Qing and Feng Yu had yet to react to Yi Qianxian's change in aura. In an instant they saw their master break the armrest of the throne. That woman. Why can't she be more obedient? Yi Qianxian was really furious. That woman was like a runaway horse the moment he let go of her. She ran off without a trace in an instant. Even the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring couldn't trap her. Could she be any more powerful? This was Yi Qianxian's first time meeting a woman like Luo Qingtong. She clearly said that she admired him and liked him. In the end, he gave her a chance to get close to him and was willing to let her stay by his side. However, she ran away faster than a rabbit. That was fine. If she ran away, then so be it. He could just catch her again. However, this woman was as slippery as a loach. She ran away no matter how he caught her. There were hundreds of thousands of ways to escape, and she used all kinds of tricks to escape. In order to escape, she didn't even care about her dignity. Yi Qianxian had really never met such a treacherous, cunning, evil, and unbridled woman. In the past, which woman didn't pounce on him the moment they saw him? However, this woman avoided him like the plague. However, in addition to his anger, Yi Qianxian also felt a faint sense of pride in his heart. The feeling of meeting his match and the woman he fancied wasn't as simple as he imagined caused the anger in his heart to dissipate slightly. Humph, let's see how long you can run away for. That woman had many tricks up her sleeves, which meant that she wouldn't get into trouble easily. Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian felt a lot more comfortable. As for her escape, he would settle the score with her after he returned and got the 10-directional dragon ring. Right now, the 10-directional dragon ring wasn't with him, so its senses weren't so accurate. Moreover, it was time to teach those people a lesson. thinking that if it weren't for the Supreme Assassin Pavilion, he might not have let that woman go. Xianxia's eyes turned cold. Master. Seeing Xianxia stand up, the aura around him fluctuated a few times before finally returning to normal. Beiqing and Fengyu immediately mustered up their courage and asked, "Oh my god, what did the evil doctor do? Why was Master so angry? But didn't Master put the 9 Phoenix ring on the evil doctor? That was a pair with her Master's Shifeng dragon ring. Logically speaking, the evil doctor would not be able to escape. Could it be that the heretic physician was so powerful that he could even block the Dragon Phoenix Imperial Ring's senses? How could this be? This was absolutely impossible. Others might not know the origin of the Dragon Phoenix Emperor Ring, but Beiqing Fengyu knew it very well. Therefore she refused to believe it. But what his master had just said clearly meant that the evil doctor had escaped his control again. Every time the evil doctor ran away, Master would be so angry. Zai, why is the evil doctor so good at running? Beiqing and Fengyu's lips twitched. They really didn't know how to evaluate Luo Qingtong. She was really the most demonic and abnormal woman they had ever seen. In this world, only their master could be compared to her. It's fine. Xianxia's anger had almost subsided by now. He would let that woman run away for a while longer. When he came back, he would see where she could escape to. Tell the Blackfield to speed up the search of the portraits I gave you. Regardless of whether you are a man or a woman, report it immediately. The man said in a low voice. Yes, master. Hearing this, Beiqing and Fengyu immediately knew that the evil doctor had really run away. But why was their master not angry anymore? Both of them felt incredulous, but they didn't dare to ask. Ever since they met the evil doctor, their master's thoughts had become more and more unpredictable. Now they couldn't even guess. Chapter 247. Why do you think that woman keeps running away? The man's voice was cold, without a trace of anger. I'm willing to let her stay by my side. I don't think she's weak and I'm willing to protect her. Why does she keep running away? He had great power and was very powerful, but he had never liked any woman. He didn't know how it felt to like someone. But he was willing to protect that woman. He didn't want to kill her no matter how much she disobeyed him. Xianxia thought that he should like that woman. But he was willing to give in for that woman. He didn't care about how she had offended him in the past. Why does she keep trying to run away? She was like a mouse that had seen a cat. Ah. Beiqing and Fengyu were stunned by his question. Fengyu was still okay. She recovered after a while. Beiqing, who was a simple-minded person, was still looking at her master. She couldn't wrap her head around it for a long time. Oh my god. Is this really my master? Is this really my master who is cold, heartless and dignified? Beiqing looked at her master who had never cared about anything and was always cold and murderous. He was like a god in the 9th heaven. He was untouchable. Now he was frowning and questioning her with a trace of doubt in his eyes. Beiqing almost pinched his own thigh to see if he was dreaming. Oh my god. This is too unreal. Maybe his shock was too obvious, or maybe his attitude made Xianxia very unhappy. The man's cold eyes swept over him coldly. I'm asking you a question. What? Oh. Beiqing suddenly quivered when his master's cold eyes swept over him. He quickly came back to his senses. Actually, that, master, I think, maybe, the evil doctor. She doesn't know what you're thinking. Beiqing, whose nerves were thicker than his brain, had a strong sense of crisis for the first time when he saw his master's dark expression. He answered carefully while looking at his master's face. He was afraid that if he said the wrong thing he would be swept away by his master's sleeve. Impossible. Xianxia frowned. I told her my name and even allowed her to drink with me at the same table. Not only that, I even let her touch me. Anyone who touched him without permission was already dead. That woman was the only exception. I've shown mercy again and again and even gave you the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring. Isn't that enough to show my intentions? Xianxia frowned and looked at Beiqing with displeasure. If this didn't count as telling that woman his thoughts, then what did? But, master. Beiqing was frightened by her master's stare. How was he going to explain this to his master? The demonic doctor probably didn't know that this meant that he liked her. thinking about how his master had been trying to catch the evil doctor ever since he came back from the Nine Magi Mountain. Anyone would think that his master was seeking revenge. Moreover, these people knew that the master said these things for the sake of the evil doctor, but she probably didn't know about the evil doctor. She didn't know his master. Just as Bei Qing was about to cry, Feng Yu spoke up and rescued him from the abyss of suffering. Puff. Master, I'm afraid that the evil doctor doesn't know that you treat her differently. You didn't tell her that you like her, right? What she was trying to say was, Master, did you not confess to her? Chapter 248. Indeed, he didn't tell that woman that he liked her. But couldn't that woman see for herself? Moreover, he was a dignified underworld lord. How could he talk about such matters of love? Moreover, he liked her. It was clearly that woman who liked him first. That was why he gave her a chance. Xianxia was very uneasy. He remained silent with a cold face. Feng Yu, on the other hand, knew that he had guessed correctly when he saw his master's reaction. Puff. Master, the demonic doctor's temperament is very different from others. I'm afraid she doesn't want her life to be controlled by others. You didn't express your feelings before. In the demonic doctor's eyes, I'm afraid you want to capture her for revenge. It's understandable that you want to escape. He advised tactfully. His master's thinking was too simple. He had tried every possible means to capture the demonic doctor. Now that he had changed his mind, the demonic doctor didn't know. She had angered his master again and again. Of course she wanted to escape. As for the 9 Phoenix ring, Feng Yu was very suspicious that Luo Qingtong might have used it as a means for Yi Qianxian to capture her. That's why she tried her best to escape. Her master had been wrongly blamed for this. It had to be said that Feng Yu had guessed the truth to a certain extent. Yi Qianxian snorted coldly and didn't say anything. However, he felt much better knowing that the woman wasn't deliberately avoiding him. Let's go. He closed his eyes and didn't say anything else. Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others didn't dare to disturb his rest. They dutifully guarded him. At the same time, Luo Qingtong was also rushing towards Dongli Kingdom. Along the way, she deliberately took some detours and spread the waste products that she had modified in her hands. In those places there were brothels, restaurants, rich families and commoners. Luo Qingtong didn't forget to mischievously throw a few of them in places with strong smells. Especially those brothels and taverns. Imagining the expression that man would have when he found her, Luo Qingtong couldn't help but laugh. After doing all this, she took Little Pig with her and prepared to dispose of the things in Tianyu's royal treasury. That was not a good thing. On the contrary, it was very troublesome. Tianyu's royal family's 1,000-year heritage wasn't something that could be taken so easily. Even though Luo Qingtong had gotten it, she still had to be wary of the royal family of Tianyu having any means to trace it back to her. The best way was to get rid of these things and replace them with other treasures. This way, not only would she benefit from it, she would also be able to shift the blame of the Tianyu royal family's treasury. As for the best place to handle the treasures, of course, it was the Black Field. Knowing that the man would not be able to find her so quickly, Luo Qingtong threw the fake 9 Netherworld Phoenix rings all over the place. Then she disguised herself and entered the Black Region subsidy of an intermediate country on the way as the evil doctor. Anyway, that man already knew that she was the evil doctor. Luo Qingtong wasn't afraid that he would catch her. After all, the other Blackfield players didn't know about it yet. By the time they reported the news of his appearance to that man, he would have already escaped. Luo Qingtong was confident that the people of the Blackfield wouldn't be able to stop her. Naturally, she didn't have any reservations. Of course, the most important thing was that she had stolen a huge amount of treasures from Tianyu's royal treasury. Only her identity as an evil doctor could keep them in check. The theft of Tianyu's royal treasury was an important matter. She could hide it from others but not the people of the Blackfield. Luo Qingtong didn't want to be sold out as a gift to curry favor with Tianyu's royal family. Chapter 249. Hey, did you hear? I don't know which expert Tianyu's royal family offended, but the entire royal family's treasury was emptied. Isn't that so? I heard that the entire treasury has been destroyed. What a pity for the treasures inside. Tianyu's royal family must be crying their eyes out. Haha. That's not the worst part. It was said that at that time, a group of imperial family experts of the Tianyu Empire were cultivating inside and were hit by the attack. Several martial emperors were seriously injured and vomited blood. Are you for real? Someone couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of water and asked, Tianyu's royal family is so miserable? Isn't that so? That's really bad luck. I heard all the alchemists in the royal city were recruited. Oh right, the Earth-class alchemists in the nearby Blackfield City were also invited. In the Blackfield City, a group of people were gossiping enthusiastically. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. Tianyu's royal family was too unlucky. He had just stolen the treasure vault and now it was being destroyed? The experts of Tianyu's royal family were seriously injured and vomited blood? It can't be that man's doing, right? Luo Qingtong thought to herself. She wasn't thinking too much, but it was too much of a coincidence. Moreover, why would a group of martial emperors of Tianyu's royal family cultivate in the treasury instead of cultivating in seclusion? Who are you kidding? The biggest possibility was that they had gathered there to search for clues about him. Luo Qingtong rubbed her chin. The more she thought about it, the more she felt it must be that man's doing. She didn't expect him to help her eliminate a big threat. She didn't help him in vain. On the other side, Little Pig also had the same thought. It must be that man's doing. He could summon the power of heaven and earth and destroy Tianyu's treasury with just a wave of his hand. Other than that man, how could Tianyu's royal family offend such a powerful expert? Needless to say, that man must have helped Luo Qingtong to eliminate future troubles and prevent Tianyu's royal family from finding her. That man was quite considerate of this woman. Thinking of this, Little Pig glanced at Luo Qingtong. In his heart, his regard for Xianxia and Luo Qingtong had deepened by another level. Well, at least he knows how to repay kindness. Luo Qingtong was also very surprised that Xianxia would help her. However, when she thought of the meridian circulation method that she had taught that man before she left, she felt relieved. It was most likely that man's way of repaying her. She didn't expect that man to be so clear about gratitude and grudges. But since that man had solved the problem of Tianyu's royal family, he didn't need to deal with the royal family's treasury anymore. Those treasures could be used as the foundation of the Luo family. With the treasures in the Tianyu treasury, the Luo clan would be able to grow rapidly. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong turned around and walked out of the Blackfield City. She had just entered the city and didn't have time to alert the people in the Blackfield City. Therefore she left without any burden. However, not long after she left, several figures suddenly appeared not far from where she was. Notify the pavilion that the target has appeared. One of them said in a deep voice. Immediately, someone responded in a deep voice and left. Let's go. Let's follow her. Those people followed in the direction Luo Qingtong left. Chapter 250. There's someone behind us. Little Pig also noticed the rat behind them. Luo Qingtong responded in a low voice. Naturally, she also noticed it. Interesting. She had just entered the city and left after hearing some gossip. From beginning to end, she didn't even disturb the people of the Blackfield City. However, these people followed her. Obviously, they had been waiting for her for a long time. She chose to enter the Blackfield City on a whim. In other words, there were probably people like this waiting for her in every Blackfield City. Apart from that man's forces, there were actually other forces that were so powerful. Interesting. Scope. Don't worry about them. She wanted to see who was the one who was plotting against her behind her back. Luo Qingtong pretended not to know about the existence of these people from beginning to end. She and Little Pig left the Blackfield City without removing their disguises and directly checked into an inn in a nearby city. Book a side courtyard. Luo Qingtong directly booked a side courtyard behind the inn. The manager of the inn looked at the large sum of money that Luo Qingtong gave him and smiled so widely that his eyes could not be seen. He immediately agreed. Guest, do you have any other orders? He asked with a cheerful face. Orders. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and rubbed her smooth chin under the Rakshasa mask. Her lips curved into a mysterious arc. You don't have to send people to ask about me after nightfall. I have a bad temper. If I'm disturbed, someone will have a bloody disaster. Alright, you can keep the extra room money. Just treat it as compensation. What she said was very meaningful. After saying that, she turned around and left. But what compensation? The shopkeeper was puzzled when he heard this. However, it was rare to meet a guest who was so generous and didn't need any special service. The innkeeper was very happy and didn't think about it anymore. In the distance, he saw Luo Qingtong had already checked into the inn. The people who followed her immediately retreated quietly. Let's go back and have a good sleep. We'll wait for tonight's guest. Luo Qingtong clearly saw these people retreating secretly. She leaned against the wall of the courtyard and stroked little pig's fluffy fur with one hand. She smiled wickedly and wantonly. That smile faintly carried the smell of blood. She jumped down from the wall and returned to her room with little pig. One person and one pig, incomparably carefree, closed the door and went to sleep. Nightfall. The moon was bright and the sky hung low. Tens of thousands of stars flickered with light, illuminating the land in a snow-white glow. Streaks of blood-red figures appeared in the surroundings of Luo Qingtong's rented house silently. Rays of snow-white light shone from the weapons in their hands. Bang! They jumped into the courtyard and were about to approach the main building of the courtyard and break into it. The next second, boom! A formation suddenly rose around the courtyard, enveloping the entire courtyard in an instant. Amidst the faint silver light of the formation, the door to the main room opened. Luo Qingtong, dressed in red and wearing a Rakshasa mask, strode out from inside. I've been waiting for you for a long time. You've already eaten your supper. Aren't you a bit too late? Her neat male attire accentuated the youth's slender waist. Her devilish appearance revealed a peerlessly enchanting charm. Her clear voice coupled with the Rakshasa mask on her face made her look like a soul-reaping emissary from purgatory. Chapter 251. Demonic Physician Ghost Eye. Seeing the demonic youth walk out of the room, the people who had barged into the courtyard were all shocked. They looked at the silver array surrounding the courtyard and looked at Luo Qingtong in disbelief. You're actually a spiritual array master? Damn it! Why didn't the intelligence report mention this? Spiritual array masters were as valuable as alchemists. Ordinary people already expended a lot of energy to cultivate. Luo Qingtong's medical skills were extraordinary, but she was also a spiritual array master? Furthermore, this array, the leader of the group glanced at the formation that was closing in on them like a turtle in a jar. His eyes flashed with shock. This array from inside to outside was flawless. Even with his strength, he couldn't see any flaws. How strong was the opponent's array? It's just a small trick not worth mentioning. But it's more than enough to deal with you. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and flicked her sleeve. Her eyes were bloodshot as she looked at the group of uninvited guests. With her ability to set up formations, none of the people inside would be able to escape. Tell me who asked the Supreme Assassin Pavilion to deal with me, and I'll leave you with an intact corpse. She said casually. The opponent's attire was exactly the same as the group of assassins who had attacked Xianxia. The only difference was their strength and the blood blade pattern on their chests. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Someone actually asked the Supreme Assassin Pavilion to deal with her. Interesting. Luo Qingtong felt that her identity as the demonic physician hadn't offended many people. She didn't know who had spent so much money to invite the Supreme Assassin Pavilion. They really thought highly of her. Not to mention that a martial Emperor realm expert was involved in the battle. It seemed that the opponent knew a lot about her. Shameless boasting. They couldn't see through the layout of the array, but as long as they killed Luo Qingtong, the array would break. The leading martial king expert waved his hand and the group charged at Luo Qingtong. 1 inferior grade martial king and 8 upper grade martial marquises. Looking at this lineup, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. You stay here and watch. After shaking little pig to the ground, Luo Qingtong instructed. In the next second she attacked with the life and death yin yang sword. Shua. The death blade changed. The pure black sword light was like a waterfall, drawing a cold and beautiful light in the air. Like the reaping light of the grim reaper in the dark night, it suddenly attacked. Sword light. Seeing the fierce sword light coming from Luo Qingtong's hand, The group of Supreme Assassin Pavilion's assassins instantly widened their eyes. Before they could react, a blood-curdling scream rang out. In an instant, an upper-grade martial marquis was killed. The sword radiance came out of her body. Luo Qingtong's figure was like the wind, and instantly swept over the entire courtyard. Quick! Retreat! That middle-grade martial king assassin only had time to shout this one sentence before a series of plop 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 sounds came from all around him. In just a few breaths, the 8 upper-grade martial marquises were all killed. In the huge courtyard, only the leading lower-grade martial king expert was left. He looked at all of this with a shocked and dazed expression. He looked at the blood-red youth in front of him with shock. He only felt that the other party's red clothes were soul-stirring, like a demonic ghost in purgatory that took people's lives. Chapter 252. The opponent's strength was clearly only in the martial general realm. She was actually able to release a sword light that only martial kings could release. She could easily kill a martial lord. How did she do it? Even if the sword in her hand was extraordinary, how did her strength support the release of sword light? The strength of a martial general was simply not enough to release sword light. This martial king realm cultivator did not know that although Luo Qingtong's power was at the martial general realm, she had gone through the life and death yin-yang sword and 9-story exquisite pagoda. Her physique had already reached the level of a martial king realm cultivator. The strength in her body was endless. Although her strength was only in the martial general realm and was slightly weaker, it was enough for her to release sword light and kill these martial lord experts. You don't need to know this. I'll give you another chance. Who asked your Supreme Assassin Pavilion to kill me? Lifting her hand to shake off the dark red blood on the death blade, Luo Qingtong held the dark black sword horizontally with one hand. Her cheeks were slightly tilted, and the sinister Rakshasa mask on her face looked indifferently at the martial king expert. Don't even think about it. Don't think that just because you can release sword light you're really a martial king. The martial king expert was depressed and angry in his heart. After a short period of shock, he quickly recovered and realized that he was actually scared by a martial general. This evil Dr. Gui Tong's methods were truly strange. However, if she thought that this would be enough to scare him, then she was gravely mistaken. Although he was shocked that Luo Qingtong could easily kill the 8 martial lord experts who came with him. However, there was a huge difference between a martial king and a martial lord. These 8 martial lord experts were only brought by him to guard against Luo Qingtong. If they died, then they died. As long as he brought back the target's head, this mission would still be a success. Thinking of this, the martial king expert raised his hand and attacked Luo Qingtong. Seeing him rushing towards her, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. With a snap, the death blade in her hand turned into a life blade in an instant. Boom boom boom. The two of them exchanged blows in the courtyard. What is this woman doing? Little Pig, who was lying lazily at the door watching the drama unfold, suddenly stood up with his eyes wide open. It had thought that Luo Qingtong would directly transform into the life and death yin-yang sword, absorb the life blade and harvest the death blade. Together with the raging flame cut she had obtained from Elder Lu, she would quickly finish off this inferior-grade martial king assassin. But why was this woman fighting with him? Did she forget that I'm not a real martial king? If this went on, the energy in her body wouldn't be able to hold on. After all, the collision of sword lights was extremely exhausting. A true martial king realm expert had a vigorous aura, which was endless and flowed endlessly. He could attack in any way he wanted. But Luo Qingtong's cultivation was only at the martial general realm. Although her power was endless, her quality was far inferior to a real martial king realm. What was this woman up to again? Little Pig was anxious as he recalled Yi Qianxian's order to protect Luo Qingtong. If something really happened to this woman because of this, wouldn't he be skinned alive and have his tendons pulled out the next time he met that man? However, this woman asked him to stay here and watch, not letting him interfere. Really, what was this woman up to again? Don't play me to death. Little Pig was depressed as it paced back and forth on the floor with its 4 little hooves. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.